Hey, Mitch.
Oh, hey, Ed, how are you?
Yeah, fantastic. Look, we're going to be talking about the greatest action adventure sequel ever made.
Oh, Alan Quartermain and the Lost City of Gold. I love that.
No, not that one. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Oh my God, the Temple of Doom. That's great. You wouldn't believe all this cool stuff I just picked at a garage sale down the street at the Stuber House. Look at some of the stuff I got.
Yep.
It's supposed to be magical, but I don't know anything about it. This is little tiny rock thing, and look at this thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't be messing with those things. You know, they're all like part of the dark arts.
The what?
You know, like dark magic. You know, bad things can happen. You know, like ripping your heart out and things.
Get out of here. You don't know anything about that stuff.
Yeah, I'm well versed in the art of Kali Ma. Here, I'll show you. Okay, come over here. Ready?
Yeah, all right. Hold on. That wasn't so bad. Holy smokes!
Hi, this is Ed Dollister.
This is Mitch Halleck.
And welcome to another exciting episode of Mitch and Ed's Excellent Adventure. If it's your first time here, welcome. If you're a regular viewer, thanks for coming back and enjoying the show. We've had a flurry of subscribers, which is fantastic. So thank you so much. And we've had a great response to our last episode. Well, the last episode recorded in this sequence, which was RoboCop. So thank you very much for enjoying that. Mitch has recovered from his injuries and he is back, and we're excited to be talking about something. But before you find out what that is, if you haven't read the title card, of course, how can people find out about our show and when we're going to drop, Mitch?
Oh, Ed, it is easy as eating some chilled monkey brains. All you got to do is smash that subscribe button down below, and you are going to come along with me and Ed on another excellent adventure like today's show, where we're going to go all the way to New Delhi, or maybe not on the way, and stop over at Panko Palace, aka the Temple of Doom.
That's right. 1984's Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. And I have real fond memory. I mean, obviously we're involved in the IndyCast. In case you don't know, there you go. The world's most popular Indiana Jones podcast. In fact, who's celebrating its 14th anniversary in a couple of days. 14 years we've been doing the IndyCast. So if you like,
we could have been doctors by now.
I know. And lawyers.
A couple times.
Oh my God, we could be lawyer doctors.
Yes, we could be. Yes, we could have been doctors and lawyers.
Yeah,
but no, we've given it all up for pop culture.
That's right. That's right. I think our path was chosen, wisely, to paraphrase another Indiana Jones movie. But we're talking about Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Now, as I said, I've got really fond memories of this. While I saw Raiders when I was 11, I was 14 when Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom came out. I went with my best friend at the time, Jason Chitty. If you're listening, Jason, or watching, Jason, lovely to see you. We were terrified and excited, and we thought we had no idea what was going to happen in this movie. It inspired us so much. We made a Super 8 movie called Indiana Jones and the Temple of Peril in 1985, where I got my mum to buy some sheep's hearts from the supermarket. And we actually did a whole Super 8 Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom ripoff. It was great fun. I loved it. Did you see Indiana Jones? I know what you're going to say.
That's hardcore. I'm still trying to recover from the sheep's heart thing. But of course I saw it in the theaters, Ed. I saw it in my senior year of high school that year. I was 1984. I was about to graduate, go off to college. But I still had room in my heart for my favorite new superhero, a.k.a. Dr. Indiana Jones, the archaeologist, world globe-trotting adventurer. And I was all set to see it. Not only did I read the Marvel comic adaptation, but I bought everything I could find that had Indiana Jones information about it. Starlog magazine, Fantastic Film magazine. In fact, my VHS tape of Raiders of the Lost Ark that was bought for the bargain price of $39.95 included a trailer at the new Indiana Jones adventure, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Death. That's right, the Temple of Death. And the Indiana Jones logo was still different. See that?
Yes.
If you people are out there studying your typography, you'll notice the I is different as opposed to that. See that? That's a little graphic design stuff. But yeah, originally I heard the movie was going to be called Indiana Jones and the Temple of Death, which was really dark, even though the other film's not a musical comedy. But the other thing I heard, it was going to be a prequel, which was like, what? And I mean, they're not as secretive back then about new movies as they are nowadays, because Frank Marshall was in this magazine I read called Fantastic Films. It was kind of like a Starlog book. And he did an interview, and they were filming the bridge scene, the finale of the movie. And he's just doing an interview, and they're talking about what's going on and the special effects guys and, you know, how they're going to cut the rope bridge. And here's the end of the movie, yet it's just months before the film comes out. But they mentioned that they were planning on doing a series of Indiana Jones movies a la James Bond, where they would just pick up randomly throughout the years and they didn't follow in a sequential order. That way, he didn't have any recurring characters other than Indiana Jones and maybe that at the university. And that's all he said was going to be there. He was the only constant in the movie, just like James Bond was the only guy, and there might be a different Felix Leiter or a different Blofeld and such. But yes, Ed, to answer your question, I was there on opening day. I had my Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom teaser poster that I bought from Lucasfilm Fan Club back in the day, hanging in my room. There's two versions of that poster, by the way, kiddies. There's a black one, which I had, and then there's a more valuable white background. And we had Harrison Ford looking all buffed with his machete over his shoulder, knife, kyber blade, whatever you want to call it. And he's standing there at the bridge, and it says, "Trust him." That's it. Trust him. And then it just said Indiana Jones, May 23rd, I'm going to say, maybe here in the States.
It was it was in May,
Memorial
definitely in the United States. It opened in July in Australia. So we had to wait a few months after that, but we got posters. I remember actually there was a women's dress shop called CUE in Melbourne, or in Australia anyway. And they had a tie-in with Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, of all things. And they had posters where it was Indy with them. And I'll show you this actually, because I dressed up as Indiana Jones when I was 14 for there was something. My dad made this.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, he made this for me. For my Temple of Doom costume. But anyway, I've got these posters, but it says on the bottom of it, actually presented by Q on the bottom of the posters. And they're really, really rare. I bet even Les David doesn't have one of these.
Les David of the Ravenwood Indiana Jones Museum up in Manitoba, Canada.
That's right. I think I've got like 3 of them because my mum, God bless her, she asked, "Oh, could we have some of those for the display ones?" And that was in the good old days when you actually could, you know, take things for they would give you things. You didn't have to, they didn't return it anywhere.
No, back in the
But
day.
you're absolutely right about it being a prequel. It was set the year prior. And the main reason for that was George Lucas didn't want to have Nazis as the villain again. So
so they didn't know that.
Yeah, so they were thinking, you know, why? How can we do that? And they originally had Lawrence Kasdan. They asked him to come back to write, but he wasn't really enamored by the story that George Lucas had come up. It was a bit too dark. I mean, I heard it was like a haunted. Dark.
Wasn't it? Was this the one that was supposed to be like a haunted house story?
So he had a story about a haunted house,
haunted castle,
in Scotland or something like that. There was a story about Indy fighting the Monkey King. In Africa, and then they had this story about the Thuggee cult, and he decided to ask his fellow friends Willard Huyck and Gloria Katz,
who
had written American Graffiti and would go on to write
Howard the Duck.
That's right. And they came
You
up.
can see our other episode about our thoughts on Howard the Duck.
That's right. And they came up with a story about Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. And it was quite different. You know, when you went in, people are expecting, I think I remember seeing maybe in the making of years ago on VHS, George Lucas was saying something like, you know, people are or maybe it was Steven Spielberg saying people are expecting another Boulder at the opening, but they sort of didn't. But that opening with the musical, the salute to Busby Berkeley, anything goes, it was like nothing we had seen before. And there enters Indiana Jones. I've still got the poster of him in his white tuxedo.
I have that.
Looking like Sean Connery from James Bond. And it just was pretty much foot on the pedal, short round style, and it just kept going from there.
Oh, yeah. I remember the headline when it came out. The New York Post, there was a guy named Rex Reed. He was a film critic. Actually, he pops in Superman real quick.
He does, yes.
Through the door. He said, Indiana Jones Temple of Doom is a Lollapalooza or something like that. I'm like, wow, that's a headline. And it was just and everyone said the same thing. Non-stop roller coaster ride. This is like a E-Ticket, which is an old Disney park reference where it was a fast ride, exciting and such. And yeah, I mean, there wasn't time to think about it. And they started showing clips on the local news, like they'd have like, interviews with the actors and the stars. And you'd see like, here's a clip from the movie. And they would show kind of a montage, really. They didn't want to spoil any of the effects. And I think you would just see little quick cuts of Harrison Ford on the airplane with Kate Capshaw, and it's the whole, hey, we're out of gas. Do you know how to fly? No. Yes. Do you? Yes. And that's pretty much the only scene that they would show on TV because, again, they didn't want to ruin the surprise. And then the other one they would show is the little romance scene with the apple. It's like nocturnal activities. You didn't know what you were getting. And then the last time they said, well, we got to show some adventure, they fast forward to the mine scene where they're running through it and Shorty gets on the mine car with Willie, and then Harrison Ford or Vic Armstrong, whoever, breaks through and grabs a hold of that like pulley thing and goes across the whole Temple of Doom, and they're playing the music. That's the only three scenes that they would show you. And just from that, you're like, well, this is definitely not Raiders of the Lost Ark. This is not Nazis fighting in the desert. This is a whole new movie. And like you said before, it's kind of dark. I mean, I think they changed it from Temple of Death to Temple of Doom, but it didn't lighten the mood at all on that set because, I mean, from day one, I think Spielberg even talks about it now. That's his least favorite of all the Indiana Jones movies because looking back now with the mind's eye they have now, it's kind of crazy. You got kids that are enslaved. You've got black magic going on. You got people's hearts being ripped out, people being lowered into pits of lava and then bursting into flames, so much so that they had to add some CGI or whatever they had back in the day. Not CGI.
They just added flames in front.
More flames. They had to obscure it. Because it was so horrific when there's that victim going down into the lava pit in the Temple of Doom. And it's like, wow, we're not going to be able to get a PG rating on this. But they did. And as we all know, that started the doors opening for PG-13.
Yes.
When it's just scary enough that you should go with a parent or maybe a little older, because this was really, I mean, I think about Jaws. Jaws is a PG movie and kind of like a little violent, but Temple of Doom is really out there when you think about some of the violence going on. They got away with it, you know.
From the get-go when Lao Che's son is skewered by the by the flaming chickens.
Shish kebab thing.
That's right. So it is pretty full on. Your as you said, the skull chalice that you've got, that horrendous replica show collectibles.
I mean, I talked to you before we started the show. There's only 650 of these, so if you want one, you know where to get one. But this is gruesome. Look at this. It's a decapitated head. And then you got this, and I don't want to go into the black sleep of the Kali Ma right now on camera, but this is gross. Yeah, this is gross. This is why it's back in the box and in the closet.
Yes,
for years. But
George Lucas was going through a divorce at the time. Steven Spielberg had broken up with his girlfriend, so it was a bit of a dark period with everyone. But I know that Steven Spielberg was, well, two things. You know, you were saying about how it was quite relentless in its action. They had to add a couple of extra like matte paintings to slow things down, you know, the action, you know, so out exteriors of like Pankot Palace or this or that to slow it down. Steven Spielberg tried to inject a little bit of humor where he could in the darkness. So during that fantastic fight in the mine, but just prior to the mine chase with Pat Roach as the thuggy guard,
the big thuggy guard,
you know, he's just thrown short round to the ground, and he's got the hammer, and he throws the hammer up, and it hits the person on the head.
Like
trying to inject
like a Warner Brothers cartoon.
That's right. You know, trying to inject a little bit of humor into it, but it is dark. And as I was saying with my friend Jason, when Willie Scott was going down into the pit, we were going, oh my God. I remember vividly going to him going, oh, she's not going to make it. I don't know how it's going to, it was like
the
that.
Fumes alone from the heat would kill her.
I know. And Kelly's going, hang on, what about that? How's that? She would have had no eyebrows, nothing.
Oh, it would have been all sense. And that's another thing too. They were on the cover. I got magazines. I got Life magazine, People, Us. They were everywhere promoting this movie. And Kate Capshaw was relatively unknown at that point. There was a movie that was out with Dudley Moore and Eddie Murphy called Best Defense.
Yes.
Which came out just before, again, by the Hayek and Katz team. They put that movie together. And I remember going to see it only because she was in it. And she was in a movie called Dreamscape with Dennis Quaid, which is another film about science fiction, about where they can jump into people's dreams. Christopher Plummer's in it. In fact, if you read Starlog magazine, get the issue that has Rutger Hauer on the cover for Ladyhawke, and you will read a review of Dreamscape by yours truly in Starlog magazine back in 1984. Anyway, yeah, because I thought Kate Capshaw was kind of hot. She was definitely not Karen Allen. She wasn't that feisty, two-fisted, hard-drinking, you know, not going to take any crap type of super heroine. This was a very kind of dainty and was worried about her nails getting broken and had to have her dress and had her makeup and her hair had to be just right. And she was not somebody that would end up with, you know, that lion tamer Indiana Jones, which is still one of the funniest lines in the movie.
Yes, when he shows up her character gets a lot of flack, I think, for not being like Marion Ravenwood, but that's not the point. Was it's not
not Marion, it's a different person altogether.
And we got again, you know, people either complain that the movie is you know, a sequel is too much like the original, it's too much the same, you know, like Last Crusade follows sort of Raiders a little bit, you know, but a lot more lighthearted. Or if you think of today's movies, you know, where each sequel is pretty much the same movie, just with the upgraded costume or whatever. But then people complain if it's too different, you know, what can you do?
Like Last Jedi. Anyway, we won't go there. No, going back to Temple of Doom, I go to look at sometimes character development because obviously they're writing this movie and he hasn't started looking to bring things to the museum. That happens in Last Crusade, which I thought was actually a little weird. That sudden break in his character, like suddenly his whole life has been devoted to just capturing artifacts to bring him to a museum. Because in Raiders, I always thought Indiana Jones, just like Belloc said, shadowy reflection. I honestly thought he was just a real mercenary type of guy, except he was working for the United States as opposed to the Germans. And he would do anything he could to get his prize. I never thought of Indiana Jones as this scholarly, noble character that was in it for education. That came about with the Last Crusade and the Young Indy Chronicles and all that stuff. But he's such, I'm not going to say a jerk in Temple of Doom, but he is definitely in it for the money. When you see him in the beginning, when they give the remains of Nurhaci, the ashes, and he goes to give it to Lao She, he only wants the diamond. Now that diamond gets retconned as the eye of the peacock, and they put that in the last, not the Last
Young
Crusade,
Indy.
Young Indy. But he's not looking to get that diamond to put in a museum. I always thought he was looking to get some money off of that thing because that, to me, I always thought he was like kind of like a crook, almost like a jewel thief. I didn't think Indiana Jones was this scholarly guy.
No,
you know?
And when you're looking at the famous or infamous banquet scene in Pankot Palace, where Chatterlal is saying, weren't you I think people called you a mercenary
Grave
or a
robber.
grave robber.
Yeah,
And
exactly. Yeah.
so
Yeah, and the Sultan of Madagascar wanted to cut off his misunderstanding. Yeah, I mean, all that stories, and because he's only about 35 years old then, if you want to look at the character.
Yep.
And
34 technically, I suppose.
34th. Yeah, okay. We don't know what time of year it was, but anyway, it might have been near July, his birthday.
Yeah.
But again, like I said, I think Indiana Jones, the character, is still kind of like this rogue jewel thief, almost like a Cary Grant type of guy, and it only is because when he sees the kids missing from the village. And then even then, he kind of is going to go after him to save the kids, but I don't think so. He sees the Shankar stones, and he says the whole fortune and glory. He's not jumping on that elephant like, hey, let's go rescue a bunch of enslaved children and save this village. He's going after it for fortune and glory. He's hoping to get the Shankar stone because
and if we save the kids along the way, that's
if we save some kids along the way, sure, why not? But no. That guy was going after those diamonds, and it's a different motivation there. And like you said, when you see him in the tuxedo in the nightclub, he's hanging around with some shady characters. He's hanging around with some gangsters. There's an off-screen fight that he had with Lao She's kid where he chopped off the kid's finger or something that they were like trying to get near Hachi without paying for him. So
wouldn't you want to see some of the adventures that he and Wu Han had together?
Oh yeah, we forgot about Wu Han.
I've got David Yip. Take a picture. I'll put in my autograph. I've got an autograph of David Yip as Wu Han from Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. But he talks about, we've been on many great adventures together, and I think that would be exciting. I don't think I thought that whole setup and going, oh, what happened?
You know what? I remember talking about fan fiction. I remember writing a whole prequel to that scene because I want to know what happened. I kind of took that little story. We're going to talk about Short Round now because he says, oh, I met him in Shanghai. He was trying to pick my pocket. His parents were killed when the Chinese attacked and all that, or the Japanese attacked. I'm sorry. So there's a whole backstory. I think Wu Han is like the Sala of that adventure. He's just there because originally they call Dan Aykroyd's character Weber, and they say there's 3 seats that they need to get on the plane. They don't have Willie Scott. I think it's going to be Indy, Shorty, and they're going to take Wu Han with them because I think they're all planning on getting out of there because Wu Han has got his tuxedo on, but he's got his gun underneath because he knows there's going to be trouble. I think they're going to grab that diamond, head for the door. Shorty's outside waiting for him in the car, and they're hoping to make the getaway clean and scot-free and get out of town. So yeah, you're right. Wu Han is another shady character too. I mean, none of these people are like saints with halos over their head. They're all a little like, I don't know. I mean, Short Round's kind of like a street urchin thief type of character. He's not a little pure as a driven snow Boy Scout, but
no. And Ke Huy Quan is fantastic as Short Round. They did a search for about 6,000 kids to try and find the role. He went in with his brother, as is often the case. The brother obviously didn't get it, but did. And you've had the pleasure of
I did.
Yeah, he was him at your convention.
Yeah. He was my guest in 2015 when we first went to the Mohegan Sun, which is a casino, ironically. And I remember waiting for he also is Key, but it says Jonathan Kwan. He's got another name, and I remember waiting for him to get there. And he pulls in with his wife, the limousine, and they get out. And it's a magnificent, beautiful place, the Mohegan Sun. It's very lavish. It's the second largest casino in North America where we do the convention. And I remember him saying, holy smoke. And I swear, I was like, oh my God, did he just say holy smokes? But he was very impressed with the place. And I kept thinking of that whole Club Obi-Wan. And here he is, there's Short Round, or actually Ke Huy Quan, but he's grown up and he's walking around and we get all the lights and the casinos and there's people in tuxedos. I'm like, wow, at any minute, I expect a gong to go rolling down the thing and machine gun fire. And we're all trying to go for the diamond, but fighting for the antidote. But he's a great guy. Also was in the movie Goonies, which we still haven't done yet on the show. And he moves on from there to become a stunt coordinator for movies like the X-Men. You can look at his name on some of those credits there too, but very interesting guy, very, very knowledgeable about the industry, because you got to remember he was 12 years old when he made this movie. Harrison Ford, or 9 or 10, I think. Harrison Ford taught him how to swim. He was telling me all these behind the scenes stories because they were on the set over in Sri Lanka where they filmed it. Harrison taught him how to swim. Spielberg would tell him jokes every day. They all had these little stories. He went on to go meet Princess Diana and Prince Charles. He met Michael Jackson, all these like 80s icons, you know. And here's Ke Huy Quan, just a little kid who comes over to America from Vietnam after, you know, the war was over. And next thing you know, he's Hollywood royalty.
Yep.
Hanging out with George Lucas and Steven Spielberg and Harrison Ford.
And years later,
he
Mitch Halleck.
And Mitch Halleck, yeah. But honestly, if you watch that movie, you know how they rank on Raiders? They say that Indiana Jones didn't do anything really to stop the outcome of the movie. If you watch Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, Short Round pretty much saves him every time in this movie. It's really, you know, Indiana Jones kind of stumbles through it.
Yep.
But Short Round's the real hero of this movie, because he does, if you go back and watch every scene that they're into, every death-defying escape, Shorty is part of that stuff. You know, I know he doesn't jump out of the plane and pull the raft, but after that, Short Round pretty much saves the day with the whole wake up from the black sleep of the Kali Ma.
That's right. And he doesn't get the credit for it because he stopped hanging around with that kid. You know, you should do that. There was, I mean, one thing is interesting. There was, when you watch it, you go, how did Short Round know that that fire would wake people up from the, you know, the black sleep of Kali Ma? But there was a deleted scene where when
there was a deleted scene.
Yeah, when they were working in the mines, that one of them, I don't know if it was a guard, ended up hitting like a vein of lava, and the lava burnt him, and that woke him up. And Short Round saw that.
It's in the comic book. Actually, it's in the Marvel comic book adaptation. There's a couple deleted scenes that I was hoping all these years later we would see put in the film, or at least, you know, cut scenes like on a DVD extra. But Spielberg's notorious for not adding anything back to his movies. It's like what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
And we're not doing deleted scenes. But you are correct. They are in the mine. One of the kids hits a vein of lava and it pours out, and one of the thuggy guards gets burned, and that reaction from the heat wakes him up from the black sleep of the Kali Ma. And that's how Shorty figured it out. And that's why he runs off and gets the torch and wakes up Indy. And then there's, speaking of deleted scenes,
are you talking about there's one deleted scene that we'll never see?
The Barbra Streisand one?
Yes.
Well, no, that's another thing. No, I'm going to talk about the Willie Scott one, where she's, you know, after they get caught
at the top of the Temple of Doom, and she runs away. You can see her run off.
You can see her running through. Yeah. They grab Shorty, and if you watch, Willie's cutting through the catacombs there. She gets away, and she runs back right into the arms of Chowder Lal and a couple of guards. And she says, oh, they're down there. There's a guys underneath there. They've got all these like fire, and they're torturing people. And they're like, oh, we think Miss Willie Scott might have picked up some bad habits in Shanghai. You know, they think she's on the junk or the weed or the opium or something. And what it is, well, Chowder Lal's part of the whole conspiracy too. He's there, and they just take Willie, and eventually they're going to sacrifice her. So there's that deleted scene. But the notorious scene that you're talking about happens when they're whipping Harrison Ford, and suddenly it's not Harrison Ford, but it's a surprise appearance by his co-star from Star Wars, Carrie Fisher,
Carrie Fisher is there, yes.
And then a certain Miss Barbra Streisand shows up, and she whips Harrison Ford and yells at him because he starred in the worst movie she ever saw, which would be Hanover Street with Leslie Ann Warren and Harrison Ford. Plummer. And Christopher Plummer, once again. He's always there, that Christopher Plummer. And and she whips him, and she uses some language that's not PC and appropriate, so we won't talk about that. That's why you don't see that clip anywhere. But they surprised Mr. Ford on that set. And gave him a thrashing for his bad acting in that movie. But
it's not that bad.
But Ed,
anyway,
speaking of Harrison Ford getting whipped, we forgot one of the biggest things that happened in this film. Harrison Ford is taken out of the movie for a good 6 to 8 weeks.
Because he has a herniated disc.
Herniated disc, right when they filmed that scene where the thuggy pops into his bedroom and puts the whip around his neck, and they do that flip. And Shorty saves the day again by hitting the light switch, and the guy gets choked to death. Harrison just destroyed his back. He always had back problems, but that one right there was it. Next thing you know, he's on a stretcher. If I believe it's Eric Idle from Monty Python, he's on the top floor of his apartment, and they gave him some laughing gas because the pain was so bad he couldn't move, and they strapped him to a board. And if you ever go to England, a lot of the apartment buildings in London, they're really long and narrow. They had to carry him down 3 or 4 flights of stairs with his back. They thought he was going to be paralyzed. That's how bad this injury was. And they had to fly him back to the United States, where they did this papaya enzyme treatment where they dissolved the herniated discs.
Is that why you've got is that a papaya or a mango you've got there?
Might be, but they don't do that experiment. It was very radical at its time. They don't do that operation anymore, but he had to recuperate. But they can't shut the entire production down, because when you're called Indiana Jones in the Temple of Doom, Indiana Jones is pretty much in 99% of the movie.
Yes.
So here comes Vic Armstrong, stuntman extraordinaire, the world's greatest stuntman, also is a dead ringer for Harrison Ford physically. So they just shot around him. So a lot of the Temple of Doom, I'm going to say, like, I think it's like 30-40%, maybe more. That's not Harrison Ford. That's Vic Armstrong shot from the back.
And I was we watched the 4K version of Indiana Jones last night, just to, why not? And while it looks fantastic and sounds fantastic in Dolby Atmos and everything like that, the picture quality is great, but it's very difficult to tell at all, that there is
one time you could see it.
Yeah.
One time when they're running down the scaffolding.
Yes.
And he takes the whip, and Shorty and Willie are down below, and he whips he whips the light, and he swings across. When he gets to the other side, he turns to untangle the whip to run off. You could definitely see the side view. It is not Harrison Ford. It's clear as day. It's Vic Armstrong. And then he just turns and runs away. But that's the only time I caught it.
Well, I think for me, it doesn't, it's seamlessly done. And I was, I laugh at with Indiana Jones 5 coming out, and there's lots of talk of, using a stunt double, and there was a shot, I think,
rubber masks they're using now.
But they've used that for years and years, and they've used doubles, and even then,
for goodness sakes, James Bond with Roger Moore.
Oh my gosh,
painfully obvious. Oh, they wouldn't even hide it when he was in his 50s. And there was one scene where he jumps out of an airplane. You can tell it's not Roger Moore at all. I mean, it's a guy like 20, 30 years old. He's taller by a foot, and his hair's there. I mean, what's the problem? It's make believe, people. All the stuff is not real. There's no Mola Ram. There's no magic rocks.
That's true.
But I don't know. They pick on it. But anyway, going back to Temple of Doom, there's another stunt. Well, I don't know if you read this. It was in the comic book as well, and it's in the adaptation. Chowder Lal wakes up from the black sleep of the Kali Ma. Kinda. When Willie is pulled out of the sacrificial cage, if you noticed, when Chowder Lal gets trapped in that big rope, what do you want to call it, that winch thing?
Yeah.
It crushes his chest, but he kind of like scurries off to the side.
Yes.
Yeah, and then Willie, it's me, I'm back. Psh, let's get out of here. When that's going on in the background, you could see that actor, Roshan Seth. Yeah, he's still moving, and he had a knife. He comes back after Indy, but Indy ducks, and then Chowder Lal leaps over him and falls on top of that cage that they just lowered into the lava, and he goes right back into the lava. And just before he hits, like you said, the heat wakes him up for something. They said that in the comics and in the adaptation, they said his eyes like wake up, and you can see that he's woken up from the black sleep of the Kali Ma. A little too late though, because he takes a little header right into a pit of lava, and that's all she wrote. So that's another scene that was cut out of the final cut of the
and they
movie.
had another one also with the in the jungle while they're that's why they call it the Jungle Sweetheart. There was going to be a whole sequence, which I think is in the comic as well, where Willie is having a bath in like the lake, and there's a giant snake. There's lots of little deleted scenes. There's the special effects for the most part are absolutely still quite incredible. There you go.
It's funny you should say. I just back in the day when they used to sell official programs at movies. This is back in that. $3.50, and you'd get this book, and it had all the making of stuff. But
Yep.
right there, special effects, they have all that stuff you were just about to talk about
So
how they
I was
did
just going to say that it was nominated
Blue.
and was won best visual effects at the Academy Awards. It was also nominated for best score. Oh, Lois, you all right? My cat just knocked over one of my dummy heads here.
Priceless artifacts.
That's right.
And there we talk about the Temple of Doom. Nowadays, everything's CGI. I don't know if we could see that, but all that is a scaled model, and it's a camera mounted to a little tiny toy mine car, and all they did was frame by frame by frame, stop motion, and then when they sped it up, it looked like it was going 50, 60 miles an hour.
It is
but in
absolutely
reality,
amazing. And the way that they've matched the lighting to the live action, it's flawless. And I think everyone had that same experience where everyone in the theater is, oohing and
you start to
ahhing.
move. Yeah,
Yep,
you start to
oohing
do
and
this.
ahhing with it. And then as soon as they go over the break and you hear just Willie Scott screaming, silence in the theater. That's a great
when it does the motorcycle jump, like the Evil Knievel,
Yes.
goes up the thing, and then
Yes.
boom, and everyone goes, "Come on, will you?" But it's a great movie. It's fun. It's got beautiful music by John Williams.
Yeah,
again,
of
of course. There's that great musical number in the beginning by Danny Daniels, who was a Broadway show
choreographer. Yep.
choreographer. There's, like you said, special effects. There's matte paintings throughout the thing. The costumes are great too. Willie Scott's costume with the sequence, they had to sew all that in there. And then she also learns how to
Amrish
spin.
Puri, who's Mola
right here.
Ram, who's amazing there. His costume,
head
and
comes off.
I love the way he pats the little shrunken head, like it's his pet.
Oh yes. We have that somewhere here. I can't get enough of that disgusting chalice. Like, there's a
Oh
little
my
thing
gosh,
there.
you got another one?
Yeah, this came with the exclusive Indiana. No, I think it came with Mola Ram.
Yeah.
One of these guys. It came with one of these things. These are Sideshow collectibles. And yeah, you got this little exclusive bit there too. But yes, he's petting the head. No, it's the shrunken head. There's a lot of detail in these things that you
Yes.
don't really see in the movie. But boy, oh boy. And you know what? There's another scene that we talk about, they cut out. And they mention it on our good friends Joe and Keith did a commentary on the IndieCast, and they talk about the film. Notice there's a cobra on top of the skull when Indiana goes to steal the Shankara stones.
Yes.
And they're glowing. But when he walks away, you could see the snake kind of moves a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently they were watching him. And the snake, maybe little eyes went back and forth on the cobra. That would have been creepy. But the thuggies were watching Indiana Jones steal it, and that's how they know to capture him. But I didn't see that there. So, but there's a lot of little stuff, like you said, the shrunken head, they beat up Indy. Well, the whip is kind of a horrid scene there.
Yes.
The side of Mola Ram's little headdress there, I don't know if you ever really looked at it, but it's kind of like an animal skull split down the middle.
Here you go. It's
a
actually
water buffalo.
No, it's a cow, and it's a cow. Now the thing is that the cow is sacred in Indian culture. So for him to be wearing that is quite sacrilegious, and that just shows the nature of Mola Ram. Steven Spielberg called Mola Ram one of the best villains, ever, and I think Amrish Puri was amazing. He shaved his head for that role and
never let it grow back.
And he was so successful as a villain that he just kept it like that.
No, there were some other details too. There's his necklace. It's got teeth, like alligator teeth, or his necklace, and then he's got these little charms there. But I swear, there's fingers. When
the
Indiana
fingers
Jones
around
first finds, they had the whole sacrificial statue there. It's really nasty. There's little fingers in the entire.
And the other thing I've got to say, are they lips or are they ears? Have you seen? There's some other chunky bits there. And
no, I thought they were ears. I thought they were earlobes. Maybe it's this guy's ears.
It could be. It's pretty. It's pretty dark. That wonderful scene with the vampire bats, which are actually fruit bats.
They're fruit bats.
Yeah. Is pretty amazing.
Well, and then there's some other. Let me see. Did you notice that elephant? The elephant trunk's not real. That's a special effect. The one that's going down Kate Capshaw. And you could kind of tell it's kind of a little fake. And then she, thinks.
And
it's
the
an
other thing,
elephant.
actually, I remember seeing it in the cinema, and I'm amazed that they haven't digitally removed it. Is the amazing
The
bridge
plane
sequence?
crash.
No, oh well, we won't talk about the plane crash, which shouldn't. They've sort of fixed it up
Say
for the
it. Say
4K.
it. Say it, Ed. Say it.
It
What's
shouldn't
wrong with the plane crash?
Well, apart from it being a little shonky as an effect, why would
I
it
like when the
explode?
mountain moved.
Yeah, it
bugged
doesn't
me.
move in the 4K anymore, so that's good.
Yeah.
But why
But-
does it explode? Because there's no fuel on there. Unless
See?
those chickens had a lot of gas. Well, there were toilets in that plane.
There was.
They were shipping toilets.
No, they were and poultry, live
Yeah,
poultry.
chicken
Oh,
and
another
toilet.
deleted scene. Another deleted scene is on the airplane. The two pilots are radioed by Lao She, because it's his airline, Air Freight,
Yep, there
to
we
go
go.
kill Indiana Jones. But why one of the guards, or not guards, one of the pilots is nervous. He has a gun with him. He sneaks over, and for some reason, the plane hits some turbulence, and an egg rolls out of a chicken's little cage, and it falls, and a sleeping Indiana Jones somehow reflexes, catches it, and that spooks the pilot so much he believes that Indiana Jones has magical powers. So he runs back. He's like, I can't go kill that guy because, he's got superpowers. That's why they abandon ship and jump out and let him die. You wonder where they went too, because they're in the middle of the mountains and those guys are in parachutes. I don't know where they thought they were going to land.
Yeah,
not too far away. Because a lot of people thought that too. Like, why didn't they just shoot the two of them while they were sleeping, or three of them? And the other thing is, you cannot fly from Shanghai to parts of India over, you know how far away that was? Yeah, the Ford Tri-Motor did not have enough fuel, or maybe they refueled it in flight. I don't know, but there's no way that plane was going to go from Shanghai all the way over to India on one tank of gas. Well, we digress about some of the other things that are wrong.
What I was going to say is obviously the wonderful bridge sequence, which is amazing. And when you watch a film so many times, you look at different parts and everything like that. There's a scene. One thing that always bothered me, once I saw it, you can't unsee it, is that from some shots the river is from wall to wall, canyon to canyon, and then in the long shots
it's like a stream.
It's like a stream. And I was thinking, I wonder why they didn't do anything with that.
Here's another thing about that bridge sequence that drives me nuts. You ever see that power cord or cable that's going along the side of the rope thing that I don't know why that's there? It's like there's the ropes holding the suspension bridge up, but then there's this like cable on one side. I'm like, what is that? I don't know if that was a safety harness or a power cord for the camera or something.
It could have been, or they had an engineering team that was building a dam and they actually constructed that bridge for them because it looks terrifying. Steven Spielberg I don't know whether he still is. Call me Steven, let me know. If afraid of heights. So he would have to drive all the way around to get to the other side, whereas Harrison Ford would just bolt across
ran right across there because why?
But there's a sequence in that where you see Shorty and Willie Scott hanging on the edge of the bridge, and they're just as they're about to go up, you can see like a small airplane flying.
No,
you can.
I never saw that.
You can see it, and I'm thinking it's obviously it's like a light plane, a modern light plane, because
like
they were filming those things. I think at Elstree, weren't they? The close-up sequences. And I was thinking, why didn't they digitally remove that? But obviously,
I don't think they saw it. Maybe it's a bird.
It's not a bird. It's a plane.
It's a plane. It's Superman. But here's the other thing too about the Shankara stones. It's always bugged me. Okay. Now, wait, before we start, we love the movie. One of the best. I love all the Indiana Jones movies. This one stands alone. Some people don't like it. It did get a lot of flack because it was such a diverse about face, direction from Raiders of the Lost Ark, where that was a more serious tone movie. This one's more like a Warner Brothers cartoon.
Yeah, and they're talking about the cultural depictions and things like that.
There's that too. Yeah. But I'm talking about just the tone of the movie too. And you got to go back, even the beginning of the movie. It's the only time they use the Indiana Jones typeface.
Yes.
In any of the titles. Before that, it's this classic little, I can even tell you the name of the typeface because I'm a graphic designer, but I don't want to get into it. But it shows anything goes. The theme song's anything goes. Willie standing in front of the logo. She actually
Yeah.
obscures it a little bit too. You have the falling out of the Shanghai, the Club Obi-Wan. You have them falling out of the plane with the life raft. Then you have the life raft falling off a cliff into the water, just like they'll do later on in the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Yep.
They're already setting you up that this is not going to be a realistic adventure here. I don't know why people get like crazy when they climb in the refrigerator when you just saw all that craziness
You're
going on.
absolutely right. And come on, anyway.
Anyway, he goes there to Penko Palace. They have the whole inner reaction there with the Maharaja. He gets the diamonds. There are only 3 diamonds. There's supposed to be 5. I've often wondered what was supposed to be unleashed. It's kind of like, are these the Lucasfilm version of the Infinity Stones? Because he's going to get these 5 rocks that they already had back in 1857 before the British came and butchered his people, and they hid the last 3 stones down here in the catacombs. I could do the voice. Why didn't they take over the world back then when they had all 5 of the rocks? What exactly is supposed to happen? Are they the Mind Stone and the Space Stone? I mean, what?
Well, I think sort of. I mean, he does say, like the Hebrew God,
the Hindu God will fall, the Hebrew God will
and
be
then
cast
the
down,
Christian God
the
will.
Christian God.
And then,
Yeah. What exactly is going to happen?
I don't know.
Do atheists get involved with this if they don't believe in any God? Does the powers work on them?
I always thought, how did they glow? Because how did they know? How did they know there were diamonds? I mean, because those things are really opaque when you see them for the first time. They look like potatoes, don't they?
Or a mango. It's a mango.
A Mangold. Did you say Mangold?
James Mangold. The reason why, I don't know, he has a bunch of, he's a professor of this, expert on the occult. He knows this stuff. Don't question it. But here's the other thing. They glow. But like I said, the 5 stones, I don't know what was supposed to happen. So they're looking for the last 2 stones that were hidden down there, okay? These kids are slave labor. They're going to find them. Then I heard that they were using some of the gems that they found in the mines to support their cause. Because he says it, we dig for the gems to support our cause. We also look for the last 2 stones. He has all these thuggy guys. Are all of the thuggy guys under the black sleep of the Kali Ma? Are they all like possessed by his black magic?
I think some are like, some are like clone stormtroopers, and some are guys who just go, hey, this is a good career opportunity.
I get a turban. The hours, you don't go out in the sun. You're down in the mines. They feed you a couple meals a day. Sure, you got to whip small children. It's not the funnest job. It's horrific.
But it's a living.
It's a living. It's a living. Anyway, that's an 80s show. About these girls who were... Stop it. We're talking about it. They're down there in the mines. All this stuff. Everybody in Penko Palace knows what's going down. Everybody. All those guys at the dinner table.
I don't think the dancers do.
Blumberg. Who?
I don't think the dancers and the musicians know what's going on.
They don't know what's going on.
Especially that guy playing the sitar who is so into it. It's great.
Yeah.
But Bloomberg is...
And the other thing is too, they're all Hindu culture, mostly vegetarian. Why are they eating snake surprise, chilled monkey brains? Why are they eating animals? They don't do that. They're vegetarians.
Anyway, don't look too deep.
I'm just saying, I'm just saying. And then
the film came out. The film came out, and it was a smash hit.
Huge hit.
It broke the record for the weekend or opening day sales. It beat Return of the Jedi for opening day sales. It ended the domestic year in the United States as the second most popular. I thought second.
No, number 2 because Ghostbusters.
Behind Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
However, from what I can see, and it's really weird because they don't have it's hard to find international box office releases apart from Star Wars and a few others. My understanding, it was the number 1 box office hit worldwide, but it was number 2 domestic. So it was huge.
It was definitely number 2 here.
Yeah, it won visual effects at the Academy Awards, as well as being nominated for the wonderful score by John Williams. There wasn't a lot of merchandise at that time. They had LJN brought out because obviously the Indiana Jones Kenner figures didn't do very well. No. Temple of Doom came along. They had LJN brought out 3 figures. It had Indiana
Three.
Jones, Mola Ram, and a Thuggy guard.
Yeah.
They weren't
Big
very
chunky
good.
looking things.
Yeah, they were.
No, I have them here too. I have them loose, but they didn't do that well. They were supposed to be Shorty and Willie, but they never went around. They never made those. So
there was a board game that came out as well.
there was a board game. There was a
T-shirts.
again,
Again, we were
kids movie adaptation. There's the official movie adaptation. There's the program we talked about, the Marvel comic book. Soundtrack.
Yeah, and the thing I loved about the soundtrack, it had it's got the book, the little booklet in there. Do you have that with that?
Here's the album. Yes, I do. It has this. It's not a booklet per se. It's more of a this.
Yeah.
There's no words in it.
No, but that's kind of cool.
A pictorial. It's actually a pictorial of everything that happens in the movie because there's the end.
Yep.
There too. But yes, that's in there.
Did
they do the storybook version of it?
Yes, they do have they did a storybook version of it as well. There was the Atari video game that was in arcade.
Oh, the video game was really cool. I loved the game.
It had speech. It was pretty tough to play. That was good fun.
Actually, you and I played that game when you were here in New Haven. Yeah.
They brought out the trading cards.
Oh yeah, I got mine. Right here. Still sealed.
Yep, mine is still sealed as well.
Look at that.
And I can feel the gum. There's the
gum is kind of disintegrating in there. Yeah.
You know what we'll do? I think for our 500th subscriber,
we're gonna eat the gum. I ate that Howard the Duck gum. That wasn't that great.
No.
But there's that. There. Oh, how could I forget? Glasses.
I never got any. We didn't get any of those over here.
No, these are done. Actually, there's 7-Up. Brown's Chicken. I don't even know what that is, but there's 4 of these. I have all 4. There's Willie and Indy and there's Mola Ram. He's my guy. Mola Cola. It sells itself. But anyway, there's that stuff. And what else came out with Temple of Doom? Album, storybook, comic book.
There was the good old record on tape.
Oh,
that they had.
How could I forget?
Yeah.
How could I forget? This I got at Macy's back in the day. This was the official Stetson, and it's got Indiana Jones. If we can see him in there.
Yeah, we can.
There's Indy.
Yeah.
This was the official Indiana Jones hat. I picked this up back in 1984. Doesn't really fit me then. My head's not grown. I just have a big head. This was a large. But the color's off. It's kind of like a dark brownish black. I don't know if you can tell that, but they had this color and then they had a whitish one, which was more Belloc. But this looks more like Michael Jackson or something. You know what I mean? Doesn't look.
You look like out of
Smooth. What was that song you had?
You look like James Spader out of the Blacklist.
Anyway, that's some of the merch they had back then.
But
you know what's funny?
Yeah.
Paper plates. Now this is a movie that's horrific. It's like we just said they had to come up with PG-13 because of this movie. I remember my first job, I worked in nowadays it's kind of like a 5 and dime or a discount store, and they had all the paper the paper party products for the movie. So they had the Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom plates. They were like bluish, and they had him hanging off the side of the rope bridge. And there was the paper tablecloths and the napkins and all the party hats. And I'm like, what kid, I want to know this kid, had the Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom birthday party the following year? Because you could have had some kind of really cool birthday cake. You know, you could have had a chilled monkey brain and ripped that off. It sells itself, kids. It sells itself. Yeah.
And then I suppose we had to fast forward quite a few years to Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and when they were releasing their toys, and that's when they brought out finally some
everything
Indiana Jones themed, Temple of Doom themed toys. There was the Lego sets. They did the Temple of Doom, the Adventure Heroes. I've got here the series. There was and these were if only they had the quality of these that they brought out for the first wave of re-released Indiana Jones.
I know. This was kind of like they didn't have Funko Pops yet.
No,
but this is Mighty Mugs. Or maybe
There's-
Funko was coming around and they didn't make it yet. But yeah, look at that. Now this one here, they made Mola Ram Indy.
That's right.
And this was a special edition. They had Indy Mola Ram. Yeah. Oh, and then I forgot there is a Funko Pop. I have it over there. It's the one that was released at the Disney parks, and it's got Indy without the jacket.
Yes.
And just the adventurous shirt. And I think he's holding the Shankara stones.
Well,
here's another bit of contention for you.
Yes.
How do you say it? Shankara stone? Shankara.
Yes.
But it's not spelled with an H.
No, it's not.
It's Sankara. Sankara. Okay.
I just say Shankara because that's how they say it. Sideshow.
Yeah.
There was a Hot Toys Indiana Jones figure.
Yep.
I
got that.
I've got here is a this is from customizer Ron Hembling, who's an Australian Indiana Jones customizer. He customized this figure to be like and you've even got the whips, and if you have a look in the bag,
the bag's got
the Shankara stones.
Shankara stones, yeah.
He did that.
Oh, wait, before we go back,
Yeah.
there was not one, but there's two Indiana Jones lunchboxes.
Yep.
Because this one has that image on it. Sorry, Mola. And then this one has that. So, yes, he had lunchboxes. As we always say, you're not a hit in the 80s unless you have a puzzle, a lunchbox, a board game, a T-shirt, and
trading cards.
Look, see, there's the thermos.
Oh, wow.
Look at that. But smells like old milk. Look at that.
I was just going to say the great posters by Drew Struzan. There was also a fantastic Aussie poster that I really like that I've got a copy of. I'll put it up, a picture of that one as well, which is great.
And this, speaking of Australia, this is an Australian poster.
Yep.
Look at that. The hero is back. See that? Look at that.
Yep. So that's an Aussie day bill that we've got. So
yes, I stole that from your bedroom when you were a child.
And I've got the
real quick
version of that.
Did you like the original movie poster?
Oh, I had that calendar as well. Yes.
No, I'm saying the poster. Did you like the artwork?
I liked it. I thought it was interesting. Yeah, I thought it was. Really good.
See, I was always disappointed in it. I never, because his face doesn't look right. He looks bored. He doesn't look like he's looking for adventure. He looks like, I don't know, like I need a nap, you know?
Well,
but they saw this and they said, oh, it wasn't what they wanted. And Spielberg or Lucas called up Drew Struzan and he banged that one out, which I think is much nicer.
Yes.
And to this day, people think I'm crazy. Well, there's that. But I used to have this hanging up in my room. And I always said, if you look good in the flames of near Mola Ram, you could see like a demonic face in the flames. And everyone thinks I'm crazy, but I've seen it. I've seen this poster a long time now, 35 years or more. Right up top, I swear there's a face in it.
All right,
and same thing when he. No, I'm not kidding you. When he did the Crystal Skull movie.
Yeah, no, you're right.
There was like an alien face. Yeah.
Yes. Take a photo of that, and I'm going to put it in right now.
All right, so there's a lot of stuff there. We talked about all the merchandise. How could we forget? There's not enough short round merchandise, but there's one too they kind of made. They made a short round version like this, a little mini bus where he's holding a torch.
And I did see recently that they're releasing a version of his baseball cap that is signed by Ke Huy Quan as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, or
I didn't know that. Most people. Here's a big mistake about that. Most people think that's a New York Yankees hat.
Mm-hmm.
It is not a New York Yankees hat. It's a New York Giants hat. The New York Giants moved to San Francisco, home base of Lucasfilm, and became the San Francisco Giants. So they changed the NY, obviously, when they moved to San Francisco. That's why if you looked at Short Round stuff, the merch, it doesn't say NY because NY is a licensed logo for the New York Yankees. So you can't go around putting NY on stuff. There's the New York Mets too. But yes, it's a New York Giants baseball cap that he's wearing.
You're right. He's just got an N on his.
Yeah. They're not allowed to put NY on all that
Yeah, a
stuff.
bit hard
So a
to
little
see,
bit of
but-
information there for you, kiddies. I'm trying to think about the Temple of Doom. After he gets there, they go back. They save the village. He gives them the rock, and then they go off. She wants to go back to Missouri. Were you ever sad that Willie Scott never popped up? Did you ever think somehow he bumped into her back in stateside, like Marion booked her for a nightclub act, and next thing you know, he shows up and they're both there. Marion's the nightclub owner, and
well, you know,
Willie's
at the
there.
Raven, they could have
At the Raven.
yeah. You know, I would have been nice to see her again at some point. I think, you know, I've got a feeling I always lament the stuff that, you know, we didn't see, and you know, so many years have passed, and I've said this many times, you know, on the IndyCast, that we should have had at least 15 Indiana Jones movies. Maybe not 15, but maybe we could have had 8 or 9 at least.
9, yeah.
You know, and it would have been great to revisit some of these characters. I don't think in the latest Indy 5 we'll get to see Short Round, unfortunately. I don't think they're in that right area of the world.
Well,
Short Round,
if it's 1935 and say Shorty was 10,
yeah,
and the new movie takes place in the 60s, say it's 1969, because they showed moon landing and stuff. So how old would Shorty be then? So what is that? 35 to, so another 34 years.
35 years. So he'd be our age. He'd be Jonathan Keyquan's probably age.
He'd be Jonathan Keyquan's age. So why can't he just show up? Why can't he show up for a brief scene? Just like, hey, Dr. Jones, look, I became a doctor professor just like you.
Yep. And there's his spinoff.
I wrote another fan fiction where you found out Short Round's real name. It was called The Revenge of Lao She. And what happens is Indy gets a letter, or Short Round gets a letter sent to the university, and it's signed to his real name. Because I always thought he says his name. It's just I couldn't understand what Ke Huy Quan said. When they're in the cage after they get caught, he says, bad news coming. You listen to, and I thought he said, So Wa Mu. I always thought he said that. Like, you listen to So Wa Mu. You live longer. And I'm like, did he just say So Wa Mu? So I thought Short Round's real name, obviously, is not Short Round. That's the name of the Hayek's dog.
Yes.
By the way, little tidbit there. Indiana was George Lucas's dog. Short Round was the Hayek's dog.
And Willie was also.
I'm sorry, Willie. Short Round was Spielberg's dog?
No, there were dogs involved.
Yeah, it was somebody's dog. So I thought the story I came up with is Indy goes back to China because somebody knew Short Round's real name, and he was a little boy, and the only person that would know his real name would be his mother. So they go there, and it turns out to be an elaborate trap set up by Lao She to get his revenge on Indy for killing his 2 sons, or one of his sons, when he put the skewer through his chest. And at the end of the story, off screen, Lao She's running, and he's about to get Short Round, and there's like a whole thing with ghosts and spirits from the past, and Short Round's mother comes back because they were killed when the Japanese bombed Shanghai, China. So somehow Lao She gets scared by this ghost and runs and falls through a window and dies or whatever like that. And at the very end of it, you know how he tells Short Round, it's just a ghost story, don't worry about it. At the end of this thing, Indy asks Shorty, like, hey, what happened to Lao She? How did he fall out the window? Who saved him? And Short Round says to Indy, it's just a ghost story, Indy. Don't worry about it. And that was the story I wrote about what happened to Short Round's mom and dad, that they were still watching after him, even though they were ghosts. And it was this whole thing about ancestors and Chinese culture and how they worship people that have, you know, passed along. I thought it was a good story because I wrote it, because that's what you do when you come up with ideas. You think they're great. That's my story about Short Round, and I'm sticking to it. And there was another Short Round comic book where Indy and Short Round team up once again, and it was a Dark Horse comic book adventure. So,
and do you know do you know Willie Scott's real name?
Wilhelmina?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's short for Willie.
What do you think it was? But it's Wilhelmina. I believe it's Wilhelmina.
As in the Scream?
That's what I heard. But anyway, just
and we can hear it right now.
3 times it appears in the movie. Anyway,
It
Temple of
does.
Doom. It does 3
Does
times.
it really?
Yeah, 3 times. You have to find out where though. You watch
No,
it.
no. It's
No,
in
I
the
mean-
alligator sequence.
Yep,
It's in the car chase,
with the rickshaw. Yep.
the rickshaw, and then the third one is one of the guys falling off the bridge. No.
I think it's somewhere in there. I can't remember.
Oh,
But
and
yes, it is.
the other thing is too. Did Mola Ram? I heard Mola Ram wakes up. Remember I told you the black sleep of the Kali Ma?
Yeah.
When he burns his hand, when Indy does the whole no, you betrayed Shiva. When it burns him, he wakes up in the novelization. It says Indy saw into his eyes, and at that moment, he saw that Mola Ram was like awake from the black sleep of the Kali Ma. Too late though, because gravity's going to come into play
Yes.
and make him fall to his death. Did you like that effect with the camera going down and you see his head bounce off the side?
I did. It's pretty. I mean, it's still pretty impressive. But that's when I go, well, hang on. Isn't the water in other shots? The water's right up. It's very. The continuity person obviously was off that day.
Sleep.
But
I like the alligator. My favorite is the alligator that spins around.
yeah,
That's just like having a grand old time eating his body. And you hear the, ah! Is that the other time you
Yeah,
hear it?
that's where you hear it. Yeah.
Being chewed up. I'm like, wow, he survived that fall and bashed his head in that much that he can still scream when he's being ripped apart by alligators.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
it is.
It's amazing.
It's an
Did you see the harness on Harrison Ford when they were having the fight on the rope bridge?
No, I still.
Oh
haven't
yeah.
noticed
It's on
it.
his belt. It's on his belt buckle.
Yeah.
It's a rope, and as they're fighting over the bag, you
Yeah.
could see Harrison Ford fall back, and you can see there's a big safety harness right there. and there's a
look
rope
in
over.
the hundreds of times I've seen it, I haven't even noticed.
Did you notice that when he's swinging on the pulley about to drop in the mine cart, his arms are like this, and then they cut, and it's like over here.
No, again, it's
and
funny
then it
what
goes
you
back
know-
like this.
Yeah, it's funny what you notice and what you don't notice, isn't it? So
I don't know. It's a great movie. It's fun,
is.
but after we watch it 10,000 times, you're bound to notice that the light in the background is off, and
or there's a
'cause we have
plane
no one.
flying in the background,
There's a
all
plane
those
flying in
things.
the background.
But
or
you certainly should watch it if you haven't.
Willie has no underwear on.
Shh, shh.
It's
I just-
true. It's true. I saw it on the big screen, and I was like, "Oh my goodness gracious!" When she's wearing that tuxedo shirt and she falls into the
Oh
water.
yeah, I
there,
noticed that. I
I
noticed
can
that
lose
as
my
well.
voice. I'm like,
Yeah.
"Hey, Willie's wild looking there."
Anyway, it's worth, if you haven't got the 4K version, it's really worth getting if you're able to play it. It looks and sounds fantastic. It's a great movie. All of them are great movies. Definitely worth your time. And hopefully you enjoyed our look back at Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Hey, Mitch,
Yeah,
just a
I
reminder
was
for
just thinking
our-
about Willie Scott. I'm
I know,
sorry.
that's okay. Just a reminder for our viewers, if you want to find out a little bit more about when our latest show drops or what we got coming up next, what can you do?
Oh, and it is simple as drinking out of this thing and falling into the black sleep of the Kali Ma. All you do is smash that little button on the bottom and you'll be subscribed and find out when Ed and I go on another excellent adventure into movies, TV, and other things from the past. And that's all you do. And hit the like button too while you're there. Why not?
That's right. And we
Wait.
should say thanks to Daniel, who's an IndieCast listener and one of our viewers who kept going, oh, when are you doing Temple of Doom? When are you doing Temple of Doom?
When
So
are we doing Temple of Doom?
I don't
Ed?
know. Maybe next year sometime. That's fine.
All right.
All right. Because I did.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's it.
It was a lot of fun.
Anyway, so thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Maybe we'll head to the eighth dimension. Who knows where we're going next? I don't
Wherever
know.
you go, Ed.
There you are. This is
That's
Ed
right.
Dollister.
And this is Mola Halleck saying, "Oh no, Shiva. Oh no, what, is that how you say it?"
I'm not
Om Nom
Shiva.
Shiva.
I'm not Shiva.
Om Nom
Kalima,
Shiva.
and we'll see you next time. Take care, everyone.